Hey, good morning. It's February 10th. It's Tuesday morning and it's 6:22 a.m. So it doesn't look like the sun's up yet, and it looks like it's going to be kind of a hazy day, not much sunlight. Just by looking at the sky outside, it looks like it's going to be, one of those days where a lot of clouds are going to be in, and, one of those days where we could be threatened with a lot of rain. So, right now, I got up about half an hour ago, and I've been sitting in bed, and I got up to use the restroom, and now I'm back in bed, and I'm thinking a little bit, I've been checking in with my son on how things are going, and, it's very difficult when you've lived through an issue that, concerned a community, as well as people that you once looked at as family members. And it's difficult because, I don't feel safe, you know what I mean? And I think my son now comes to realize that the people in his family, or I say his family because, like I said, I don't never included Bruce's family into my family because I never married Bruce, but he now realizes what Bruce's family was, and then he also understands that the kids of 533 were not always on the up and up. So, and that's something, it's upsetting because we both have these very strange feelings that we're not really able to talk about. And see, this is why I resent the community's involvement in this illegal operation. And yeah, it is illegal. This originally, to me, started off as a work issue with Bruce and Sarah pretty much sticking their nose in my business where it really didn't belong. And initially, it could have been where Bruce, had started off, this before he actually met Sarah, with the goal of, keeping his hand in my personal business in case he ever wanted to indulge or take over my stuff. I find it very offensive, and I'm beyond angry about it, and I'm not ever going to, be okay with what these people even thought that they, it's offensive no matter how you look at it. And, I hate Bruce more every day for even thinking this nonsense. But anyway, and then dragging me into it, and then, making my life being put on hold for his stupid anything relating to him in his life. It makes me angry because I don't want anything to do with him, and he was sitting here, putting me in situations where I'm supposed to be waiting around for him or having something to do with him, and it's offensive, and I would never waste my life on that piece of trash. Okay, so anyway, this is something that bothers me a lot, this issue. And, my son, I see that it affects my son, but we're not, really able to talk about it. And see, a lot of it has to do with my son feeling guilty about, what he knew and everything. And this should have never happened. It was wrong. It was wrong. And I struggle to feel safe. I will never feel safe ever again. I will never feel safe knowing that something like this could happen in a community. And then using I think the part of using religion as an excuse to do it is what makes me even more unlikely to trust these people. I will never trust these people ever again, ever. Okay. So anyway, moving on from that, I did express my concern about, his struggles. And, I let my son know every day I will never trust anybody in the community, ever, ever. And see, I don't know if I think my son understands he shouldn't trust people in the community, but I can't really, I can't be with my son 24 hours a day. I will just say, though, that he needs to pay very close attention to the situation that I'm in now, and he needs to understand that everybody who put me in this situation is responsible for it, and I'm not responsible for any of it at all. So that should make him, with that realization, that should make him feel pretty uncomfortable, and it should become quite aware that there's not one person in this community that he should put any of his trust in. But anyway, I woke up earlier today and I was thinking how tired I am of this whole issue dragging on. I'm very angry that Bruce was able to do this. And then I'm also angry because, I said, I don't know who Sarah is. You know what I mean? I don't know who Sarah is, and I don't want to know. I've always made a point to be very careful about who I spend time with. And I'm angry because, you could make all this effort to not want to be associated with people, and then people try to force you into their network, and I'm resentful of it. Okay, because I never wanted anything to do with Bruce or Sarah or, merging families. And I will tell you, as a person who, I don't consider myself as having family other than my son, okay? And I like it just fine that way. Okay, I don't want to deal with people coming into my life or trying to make me feel like I have some sort of obligation or responsibility for them. I am not responsible to anybody or anything. And the reason, and that's kind of sad in ways, because I wish I did have, strong family bonds, but my family was toxic. They were abusive. Aside from that, I had made it a point to not marry Bruce many, many years ago. And, it made sense that people should have respected that. And some people think, well, any family's good. You should be happy to be a part of anything. No, it's not. I don't have that attitude, okay? These people did nothing but abuse me, and I have received absolutely nothing of any benefit because of being associated with them. So, no, I don't want a relationship with them. And I think my son now realizes that he did not benefit from the association with them either. And like I said, I've always done things on my own, and that's the only way I'm comfortable doing things. Sometimes, people, they'll want to do something and they get insecure about it. So they'll call it maybe their friends and they'll get their opinion on it or whatever. I've never had that. So it's always been, if I have something in my head, I'm just going to go ahead and do it because I don't have that group. I don't need a thumbs up, and I don't like people trying to put me in situations to where I do have a group. You know what I mean? I resent those people 100% by involving themselves in my life and then trying to take control over something that I feel is too important. Like, how I present the Swan Song Manifesto is too important for me to water it down or cater it to something that I don't even want. The message I'm getting right now is that people like my card spreads and my past life research. I was very excited to put that in there because I see all the help that it's given me. It has given me so much help understanding who I was, what I did, and then, a lot of people seem to be doing a lot of readings on my father's apparition. My father, I'm very grateful that I was able to talk about and came to understand my father's position on cloning. And I do believe that Sarah may have tried or wanted Bruce to Houston to produce offspring, to bring back my father. I resent that attempt. Why? And my father resents it as well. We do not want to come back here on this earth, okay? This earth planet is of no value to us. I don't believe that the way that it's just not a good place for us to be, and we don't ever want to come back, period, okay? Ever, okay? For somebody to want to clone another individual, I would wonder, would they want to be cloned? I don't think they would. Okay, especially if they're not able to give you an environment that is really conducive to your way of living. It's abusive to clone another individual, period. Okay, and so, I do not want my son to have any children. That's his choice, really. But, there's a lot of abusive people, and I do believe the Collins involvement in my life was one mainly of abuse. They cared nothing about me, and I don't expect them to. You know what I mean? But, especially seeing as how I did marry into their family a long time ago. But it should be very clear that these people are not good people, and they're not people that I want to have an association with, okay? I came here to Bakersfield by myself, and that meant that I was to look for work by myself. I wanted to set a world, a nice home for my son and build a little life for my son, and I struggled to do that. And the reason why I struggled to do that is because I was dealing with Bruce Collins and his family, preventing me from working when I needed to work or whatever. I never associate myself with anybody. I am always somebody who does things on my own. And had I been able to be on my own, I would have been better off. I would have never dealt with the Murray Family Farms thing. I would have been able to possibly become a CPA had these people not been in my life. They were nothing. They've added nothing to my life at all. Okay, the message I'm getting right now is look forward to new beginnings. I want new beginnings, you know what I mean? And how I feel right now about, I feel like there's no one in the world that I can trust. I don't trust anybody. I feel like my son is starting to understand that he can't trust anyone either. But at the same time, we have to exist in this world. You know what I mean? I got attacked by people who were defending Sarah when I wasn't even part of her anything. And people need to understand and get it through their thick head. I'm not associated with Bruce's family or the kids of 533. I am a lone wolf. I don't have anyone. Okay? So the message I'm getting right now is that, people do understand that I don't. They know I'm usually by myself. They know that I'm somebody who walks my life journey by myself. Okay? And that's one of the tragedies of being born in these, MK Ultra type setups to where, you got this toxic family and you grow up and then your family's not supportive. If it's anything else, they're more survivalist and they're willing to survive joining forces with people that you don't like. Okay? I don't have family. I'm all by myself. You know what I mean? And see, I resent people wasting my time or trying to force the relationship with Bruce. See, this is what I'm saying about people who do things that are very thoughtless, that could be that could jeopardize people's lives. You know what I mean? I made it very clear I didn't want anything to do with Bruce. Okay, and we have people in this community that wanted to insist that there was something there when it wasn't. Okay, and I don't know how Sarah fits into all of that or whatever, but I'm disgusted by all of it. Okay, I would have never wasted 1 minute of my time arguing over Bruce or trying to be in a polygamous relationship or any of that. I will tell you, when it comes to me being able to provide for myself, keep a roof over my head, pay my bills, I am 100%, will always be, and nothing else is going to be more important than that. It will always be the most important thing. Like I said 10 years ago, or when I first made this channel. Okay, I don't care about marriage. I don't care about any of that. I care about survival. And we had all these idiotic people thinking, oh, let's waste her time. Or, Bruce is this. Or Sarah's doing this. Or what. I don't care about any of those people. I'm not related to any of those people. I don't care about those people. Now, like I said, originally I was thinking that Bruce and Sarah were supposed to be like this happy couple. That's what I thought. I thought they were happy. They were living in San Francisco. To me, living in San Francisco's a cool place. I mean, it used to be anyway. San Francisco's a cool place. I figured they were, keeping themselves busy. I'm surprised to find out they were still fucking miserable. I'm surprised to find out that they were people who had to sit here and do this kind of activity. They're the kind of people who enjoy things like the dark web or, plotting on people's, the takedown of their career or comparing themselves to other people. And I was somebody who's just happy just to get by. You know what I mean? And I'm beyond pissed off that people drag me into their problems. You know what I mean? And the problem with it is like maybe Bruce felt like he was, some people, they get older and they want to add a little zest to their life and they want to pretend that maybe two women are fighting after them or maybe Sarah's bored, maybe back in high school or in college, she used to have all these little love squabbles so that she might have made up some story that, that could fit into her adult life to make it seem exciting. I get bored with adult life too, but I don't sit here and ruin people's lives over it. You know what I mean? God, I would say adult life is the most boring thing you could ever imagine. You know, there's like literally nothing to it. The only thing you have to look forward to is working for a shitty employer that lies to your face. That's the only thing you have to look forward to. You know what I mean? I've tried to make better out of my life, you know, and this is one of the reasons why my hobbies are so important to me, because I see nothing of value on the outside world. Everything on the outside world is shit and garbage and trap and some sort of entrapment or something based on a lie or a lore or some sort of misrepresentation of what it really is. It's a waste of my time and I fucking hate it. I hate it. Okay, so you know, I'm very upfront about how I feel about, you know, what some of these people were like all gung ho about. Like, you know, they were always bitching about me not being into trends or whatever. It's like I could care less about the outside world. I don't care about it. Okay, all it does is bore me with its fakeness and its BS. You know what I mean? And that goes for everything. You know, for everything. You know, when it comes to, you know, their little competitive games. People comparing their iPhone against an Android. I mean, I really don't care. And this is all the shit that these people were wanting me to get into, these arguments and entanglements over, you know, for 12 consecutive years, wasting my time, you know. And it's like, it pisses me off. It pisses me off. So now my son comes to understand that his dad is a piece of shit. That's got to be hard on him, you know what I mean? But it's better he find out now, you know. It's better he find out now just what a big piece of shit his dad is, you know. You got to know these things. It's better to know, you know. And no, I'm glad that my son is not having any children. The message I'm getting right now is that yes, reincarnation can happen by natural birth. I would not be somebody who would be supportive of that, nor would I want to have anything to do with that connection. I don't approve of it. You know what I mean? I don't approve of it. And I think it was very stupid. It's immature and a willy-nilly decision to bring in, to give birth to somebody who has such a complex need. You know what I mean? Like, I understand that, you know, the reason why my mom failed in raising me is because she didn't understand that I needed to have certain environments to be in. You know, it was dumb to think that I could go to school with all the other kids. I should have went to a better school. I should have had, you know, maybe even a private tutor or something along those lines to keep me out of the way of people bullying me or causing me problems or whatever. You know, I should have had a better environment, you know what I mean? No, I do not want my son to have children, you know what I mean? Because and if it could have been like maybe discussing marrying that one girl that came over to the house. She was automatically rejected by me. I did not want her, and nor did I think she could ever be a good mother to my grandchildren. She's not somebody that I would want raising my kids, so the answer is no. Okay? And like, people don't think about things like, you know, genealogical makeup, which I think is important. You know, understanding how unique me and my father are. We are not the kind of people who are going to be happy, you know, doing a lot of the activities that some kids do. We might enjoy it, but, you know, we also like being by ourselves, you know. We also like doing certain activities, and unless, of course, parents are really equipped to give those things to the kids, then they shouldn't have kids. You know what I mean? They shouldn't have them. And see, so yeah, I don't want my son having kids. You know what I mean? I think he's better off not having offspring and just living out the rest of his life doing the best he can do as far as, you know, being the best person he can be and not relying too much on other people, being self-sufficient, taking care of himself, and living the best life he can do. And that's what I do, okay? I don't want to cause people problems, but I know that I'm only responsible for myself. You know what I mean? And so a lot of people want to come up with ideas and enforce their stuff on people. And it's like, you know, when it comes to my bloodline, I'm very, very careful about who I am, what I need. And I know that most people don't know what I need. So it's best for them to just stay out of my business, stay out of it. You know what I mean? And I resent, like, you know, the Collins. I resent, you know, them redirecting Houston's life, because Houston was I never wanted to introduce religion to my son. Why? Because I wanted my son to be free of mental torment And I do believe that religion is the cause of many people's mental illness. And this is something I saw in my sister. This is something I saw in Amanda and her sisters. I saw this in her family. I saw this in the adults of a lot of the parents I used to know. And I didn't want my son. See, and the Collins were trying to enforce religion onto my son, which caused my son mental distress. Okay, we're not meant to be religious, so please don't do that again. Okay, we're not. And then they wanted to have some sort of weird spin on, this issue of bringing my father back, and then trying to set us in doctrinal beliefs that we don't approve of. We don't approve of your doctrines. Sorry. We don't do the things that you do. We don't see the importance of the things that you think are important. And then you would be, no, my father was not somebody who believed in organized religion, and that's exactly what they were trying to bring him into. Okay? We don't believe in it. Okay, so leave us alone and do not bother us again with that stuff. Okay, that's not to say that we don't believe in God. We don't appreciate what Jesus did. That's not what we're saying. We're saying is that people get into these power struggles and they see things a certain way based on their tradition, their culture, maybe their own religious ideology. And they see people like me, like, for example, I have a good relationship with the divine. And because I don't do any of the things that they do, then they feel offended because, well, aren't you going to observe the Sabbath? Don't you think this is important? And, it's not about that. It's just that it doesn't resonate with me. Okay, it doesn't resonate, meaning it doesn't have any validity in our life, our spiritual makeup, our spiritual requirements, or our need to feel spiritually whole. Please leave us alone. Okay, and it might that might be the very thing that might give you, the spiritual empowerment or the joy that you need. Maybe it adds zest to your life. Like some people, they do special rituals. Like some people fast. Okay, and they feel as though that adds something to their life, their spiritual life. Or it also, some people feel as though it adds power to their prayer. They feel as though their prayers are accelerated when they fast. Okay, that's what they do. And specifically, might have a specific need relating to them. Okay, so somebody else doing that on their behalf isn't going to do anything for them. They have to do that themselves. So whatever the case is, do not involve yourself or try to impose your religion on us. Do not build religious belief systems and then try around me and my father and then try to make out rules that my father would never accept or we would reject, which is what I believe Sarah was trying to do. I believe that she was creating some sort of like cult around me and my father and basing it on religious views that she grew up with or things that she thought were important. We ourselves would not adhere to that. So please leave us out of topics of religion. Do not sit here and think, don't involve us in your stuff, please. Okay, the message I'm getting right now is I am an ancient, mysterious soul. Yeah, I am, you know what I mean? But I also understand that spirituality for today's modern day, right? So it's not like, what I'm saying is I'm comfortable with my spiritual views, okay? And I hope that other people are comfortable with theirs, but don't ever bother me with that ever again. Ever again. Okay, when it comes to the Collins, I believe most of these people are dead. No, I do not want your religion, and I'm not trying to speak for my son, but apparently my son doesn't want it either. You know what I mean? And I left my son out of religion for a reason. I felt as though it was better for his life to not be a part of it. Religion was, and that was my choice. Now, as my son was a minor and he could have been hanging around the Collins or whatever, they may have indoctrinated him with belief systems that I myself did not approve of. Okay, I do think they had an interest in my father. My father is in heaven, and he will continue to be in heaven. If somebody is making attempts to have him be born on earth, he will not respond to the light call, okay? Do not sit here and think that it's a good idea to bring any of us back because I'm going to have the same temperament. I am never going to support, and I want you to understand this. I mean it now, and I mean it for all the ages. I am never going to support organized religion. So do not make attempts to do that. That is who I am. That is the complete foundation of who I am and how I stand. I believe in raw spirituality. Stop trying to make me into something I'm not. Okay. I think that needs to be the end of this discussion, okay? And I resent your attempts to do so, okay? Without asking me and just trying to enforce your views on me, okay? If you feel as though abstaining from certain foods or, acknowledging the Sabbath or, reserving your meals. Some people are like that. They want to fast, or they feel like they want to, do certain things that are going to add, and it might for you specifically. Yes, I do believe spirituality, spiritually connecting is individualistic a lot of times. It's not something that can be done in groups. Some things can be, and some things can't be. Okay, but please leave me out of your stuff. I'm very angry that you even tried to enforce any of your stuff on me. The message I'm getting right now is that people agree that that my view of law enforcement is the right way to go. How do you get people to cooperate of different backgrounds, different races, different religions? They all have one thing they have to be responsible for, and that, of course, is making sure that they follow the law, the regular, and this comes for civic law, how to relate to other people, making sure that they don't go beyond the level of being rude and harassing people. Okay, harassing people could be anything relating to something that's repeated, unwanted, makes a person feel uncomfortable, whatever, okay? And a lot of people, because they see somebody who's different, they want to harass them. In this case, I was dealing with harassment, okay? And the law is on my side, but we had people here in this community where they were convincing lawyers to be a part of their little cult group, and that was of no value to me, okay? And mind you, they were being a part of a cult and protecting somebody that did not deserve the protection, because I had nothing to do with Sarah, nor do I even know what she looks like or anything about her. The message I'm getting right now is that yes, reincarnation can happen by natural birth. Okay, that's nice, okay? I will never respond to it. Okay, I do believe that my son is a reincarnated ancestor. Okay, and that's all. And there might have been some squabbles because this reincarnated ancestor used to belong to a particular religion. They no longer belong to that religion. Leave them alone. Okay, the message I'm getting right now is that my son realizes Sarah was a wicked and evil person. Okay, I don't know what Sarah was trying to do, you know what I mean? But what goes on in one lifetime, the only reason why what happens in a past life matters now is because it gives you an explanation as to what happened. What happened? Why do you deal with these challenges? Okay, so let's say, for example, Houston is an old ancestor that used to belong to a particular religion. He no longer identifies with that religion. Okay, as Houston, I did not expose him to that particular religion. Okay, so as Houston, this is who he is now. Now, if he sees something in that religion to where he chooses to convert to that religion to what he was before in his past life, that is his choice, okay? But no one should ever force him to. The message I'm getting right now is that Houston realizes that Sarah was a wicked person. So something about Sarah thinking that she could try to tell Houston what to do or whatever. Sarah needed to understand Houston is not her son. Okay, Bruce never, even though Bruce is Houston's biological son, Bruce is nowhere on the birth certificate. Bruce and I never married. Okay, if Houston was Bruce's biological son, Houston's last name would be Collins. Sarah is not Houston's mother. Okay. He was just Bruce's biological son that used to hang out with Bruce when he'd go to San Francisco. Okay. He may even refer to Houston as Bruce's dad. Okay. But Sarah had no right to make any sort of decisions over Houston or anything. The message I'm getting right now is that I will live a long life and go home to heaven with my father, never to be cloned again. No, I don't believe in cloning. You know what I mean? And, maybe I don't believe in it unless, of course, it's consensual from me, right? And like I said, I will not consent to coming back here. I will not consent to coming back by natural birth, and the message I'm getting right now is that Houston realizes Sarah was evil and wicked. And I think what Sarah wanted to do was to take control over this. Sarah had no right to be a part of any of this. My employment as well as anything relating to my son. Why? Because Bruce is not Houston. I mean, Sarah is not Houston's biological mother or legal mother either. Bruce never received any. Bruce never legally adopted Houston and gave him his last name. So Houston is Houston Gordon. He is not related to Sarah. Okay. So my son thinks that Sarah is evil, and the reason why he thinks she's evil has something to do with my father. She wanted something to do with my father. Yes, my father is in. No, I would say that if somebody wanted to have my father be cloned again, which I believe Sarah wanted to bring him back, that would be evil on her part, right? Because that is not the desire of my father. My father chooses to stay in heaven, and I choose to be in heaven once it's my time over. And when Houston's time to go, his time, that's his choice. That's his choice. Okay? I do not choose to, I would never bring a relative back knowing what I know about cloning. Okay? And now that people know what it is and why it's wrong, and that's their choice, you know what I mean? But to me, I could never respect an individual who would bring a person back from cloning, knowing that they don't want to be cloned. You know what I mean? I don't want to come back here. You know what I mean? There's very few things I enjoy on the earth, okay? And the only thing I enjoy on the earth are my things. I don't give a shit about the rest of it. Okay. Like, I used to like working, but, I worked for bosses that, that were brainwashed, and it was a nightmare. You know what I mean? It was a nightmare. It's a nightmare working for people who do not know how to manage people. It's a nightmare. Okay, it's a nightmare being involved in human trafficking, working jobs that are not long term, that don't have any stability, being forced into a network. I didn't ask to be in the part of that network. Okay, I mean all of it was a nonsense and garbage to me. Okay, and now I believe once you die, you should die. I don't believe the cloning process was necessary. I know people made it up like, oh, we got to clone him so he can have another chance. No, you do not need to clone somebody to convert them. Okay, they are fine the way that they are. The message I'm getting is Houston believes that Sarah was a wicked person. I believe that she was too. I never met her. Something about me getting interviews for the So Song Manifesto. I did get something from the girl who I'm supposed to be interviewing. I think she might have some sort of stipulations or some sort of contract or whatever. I was not able to open it. I had to ask her to resend it to me, whatever, okay? If she's concerned about, or this is anything that goes on in the future, like if people are concerned about their identity, there's things you have to be concerned about as a targeted individual, okay? Like my identity, I don't care about people knowing my identity. I feel as though these people exploited my name. Everybody knows who I am. My name is Maria Gordon, and I'm a victim of human trafficking. I am also referred to as a victim of a targeted individual. I now come to find out what makes targeted individuals. Many targeted individuals are victims of MK Ultra, mind control programs relating to CIA operatives that are a part of organized religion through church systems, okay, which is kind of shocking, but this is basically what it's been come down to. And when you think about it throughout the generations, I'm sure the CIA, the former name of them, was comprised of groups that probably played a very integral role in the cloning system as well. So they just formulated and made themselves more of an organization, solid type organization for nowadays. Okay. Either way, it is illegal, and it is it is not something that I believe is spiritually required to create clones, and what it is basically bloodline targeting. People who were looked upon as exceptional, being brought back by perhaps dueling race bloodlines. Maybe like, for example, I talked about Eileen Wardrose. Now, obviously, she was a white woman, okay, but she obviously had, her bloodline was something that people wanted to challenge, mainly because I do believe she had, even though people, see, I would say when you're a targeted individual, which she was, people control the narrative. Like, the movie was named Monster. They tried to make her out to be a monster when in fact, she was just somebody who was trying to defend herself. Okay, she was somebody who was she was set up to have no support system, so she had to resort to prostitution. Okay, I know that she was in a lesbian relationship. She didn't have anybody. You end up being with whoever you're going to be with. Okay, she had a raw. She really got the short end of the stick. Okay, and they allowed her to die with a bad reputation. And this is very indicative of people who target people, okay? Especially when the church system, there's a lot of denial there. People want to, act like, oh, we're not responsible. Well, we're the ones who are responsible. These people who claim to be, church-going, God-fearing people. When in fact, this lady, Eileen Wardrose, probably had intuitive gifts. She seemed like she was a very highly intelligent person, okay? But the problem with it is she was a burden baby. It seems odd to me that somebody who is 13 years old is going to be living out in like lots or, alleys and stuff like that. But this is where she found herself often, and the reason why is because you're burden baby, people accept you to get jobs, to get whatever, and once they get their end of the deal, the novelty of having a kid wears off, and she was left to her own devices, ignored and neglected often, okay? And so pretty much she is a good example of bloodline targeting, okay? And I believe she's a good example of somebody who dealt with setups, perpetrators, dangerous people that were constantly being pushed in her direction. And she had very little protection by the legal system. Why? Because they were in on it too, because of, brainwashing church initiatives and stuff. So this is why I'm saying, the church needs to clean themselves up. The message I'm getting right now is it's time to get past all of my negative feelings and try to focus on things that are more positive, which is not always easy to do. You know what I mean? If you think about it, everybody I've known throughout my entire life has been evil and dishonest. And what made them evil and dishonest is because of their association with these church programs. Moving on. Anyway, so people know that I do not want to be cloned again. No, I do not. Okay. People look at me as somebody who is beneficial, sharing my story. A lot of people find my story beneficial, which is good, I do believe that the Collins, I am disturbed at how they looked at this cloning process. And like I said, my son was also disturbed at their view and their abuse of behavior towards me. And I think that this is going to stay in my son's mind for very many years. He was disturbed by who they were. Okay? And no, the Collins are not good people. They're wicked people. They're very dark people. And I'm sorry that my son had to get to know them. Okay? But when it comes to my family bloodline, I believe that, people such as my father, right? Me and my father, we are extreme empaths. We're empathic, okay? Meaning that, we're capable of caring. We're capable of, and we understand the importance of sincerity, okay? And we know that there's very few people in the world that are sincere, but we've been sincere to one another throughout our lifetimes. And it's a true sincerity, okay? It's one where, I feel as though other friendships are never going to matter. Why? Because, I've only known fake people, and most people only know how to be fake or surface level friends, because this is what they've been taught to think of as normal. You know what I mean? But see, none of these people I grew up with were my friends. And I don't look at some of these people, what they did was betrayal, because I never had any expectations for them in the first place. You know what I mean? I did feel betrayal about my family, like the kids of 533. Why? Because I naturally felt concern from them. I never wanted them to suffer. If I found out that they were gang stalked and they called me up and said, look, people are gang stalking me, they're preventing me from working, I would take an interest in what my siblings were telling me, because I understand the importance of, number one, you have to be able to work. Number two, the dangers of somebody playing with your life in that manner. Okay, it is not a joke when people are playing with your life. employment tampering is not something to be taken lightly. They don't understand the importance of that, but I do. Okay, and I would, if the tables were turned, I would have never allowed my siblings to go through that. I would have played an active role in resolving it. Okay, I will never forgive anybody who put me in this situation. Okay, and I don't forgive it. Okay, and so when it comes to, betrayal, yeah, I was betrayed because I understand how important it is to feel secure, and I would have never done anything to my siblings to make them feel scared or make it so that they will have to worry about their future. So I don't forgive this. I don't forgive it. And I'll never forgive it. Okay. And so people need to understand, like, for example, this story here, I think it should be told and taught to kids. Like, why? Because, for example, kids don't understand that their families are supposed to be their foundation, and like you could raise your family to understand respecting the space of other people, respecting their things, okay? Not just their things that they have, like their items, like their personal items, their keys, their purse, their clothes, their items, their handbooks, their notebooks, whatever. These are items that belong to kids that are theirs. And sometimes kids, their other siblings might steal them or take them or, without their permission or something. It's not just things that you can actually take. It's the things that are related to them, their creations, their belongings. People need to know and respect. Do not to touch things that don't belong to you. And I know that parents are supposed to teach this lesson, right? But you'd be surprised how many people don't pay attention, or, in gang stalking activities. This should be cultivated in each child, and in reinforced, reminded, throughout the stages of their life, so that their kids don't grow up to be bad people. Because this is what it is. It's a result of people with their poor upbringing, people not being ignorant. Yes, I mean, to me, to tamper with employment is an ignorant thing. Okay, it's ignorant because it causes problems, it causes setbacks and long-term damage. Okay, managers should never participate in this sort of stuff. So no, kids, siblings should be raised to respect the will, the desires, the actions, and the physical, tangible items that their families have, so they don't touch it. Okay, and also understanding that if a person says no, they did not give their consent, that they need to respect that. Respect boundaries. Okay. See, now I live in a community where this community was just absolutely, I live in a very ignorant community. And I was warned, but I also needed to know I needed to live and find cheap rent, and this is where I moved to. I can't get over the fact that people were instructing my family on how to so-called deal with me, okay, when these people were the most ignorant people you can possibly imagine. I don't need to be dealt with, okay? I'm actually somebody who behaves very well in the workplace. I present myself very well. I present myself professionally in the workplace. So I don't need people trying to give me tips and pointers, and I find it offensive, and I don't forgive it. The message I'm getting right now is that my Father will continue to be in heaven and wait for me. Look forward to new beginnings. Some people think that my thoughts are magical. I would say this. If they were, I would be far more advanced by now. But I do think in a logical way, right? So like in this issue where I had the entire community pouncing on me, I had to sit here and find out each and every reason why the community was acting so inappropriate. Number one, I am not responsible or related to the Gordon kids. Now I'm not. Definitely not. Okay. I know that I was adopted by them. I'm over the age of 18. I come to find out I am adopted. And of course, that changes the entire thing. Okay. That means these people were trying to financially exploit me. Why else do they want anything to do with me knowing that I'm not adopted to him? I do not want any sort of communication with these people, and I have the right to say that, okay? I am not related to the Collins family. I am not married to them. I never consented to marrying them, nor would I ever marry them. I do not like them, and I'm beyond angry that somebody would think that I'd want them, okay? I am a lone wolf, meaning I am somebody who is by themselves, okay? When I look for work, I look for work by myself, okay? And so I don't need people sitting here highlighting this issue that I'm single or whatever. It is what it is. Please mind your own business. The message I'm getting right now is that people realize that sexual harassment takes many forms. And yes, this is an example of sexual harassment. I don't bring up my marital status, and I don't appreciate other people who bring it up. I don't want to be asked if I'm married. I don't want to talk about marriage. I don't want people bringing up the subject to me. Leave me alone about it. Just leave me alone about it. Okay? No, I don't regret not being married. No, I don't think about getting married. You know what I think about? Survival. That's what I think about. Please do not ever bother me with that nonsense ever again. Ever. Okay? When it comes to me and my father are solid, meaning we're solid not because it's a romantic connection that keeps us together, because I know that we were married at one time many, 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 many years ago. It's the fact that we're unique and we are spirit travelers, okay? We are spirit travelers. When you live a unique lifestyle, you don't relate to most people because most people can't understand the position that you're in. Okay? My father understood the position I was in because he's been in it many times. Okay? Most people don't understand what's it like knowing that you can't trust people. People can't imagine that. Okay? But I could sit here and, my father knows what that's like, to be around people you can't trust. Okay? What's it like to, work for many, many years and work among people that were either set against you or gossiping about you or that you couldn't trust. I couldn't relate that and tell somebody and expect them to understand. If I was to sit down and have a conversation with my father, James Gordon, he'd know what I'm talking about. So this is why we have this bond. This is why it goes on throughout the ages. Why my father's spirit decided to attach itself to me and come to me, knowing that Sarah was creating some sort of conspiracy against me, knowing that that was going to put me in a situation of vulnerability where I would have no one to rely on. So guess who came to my rescue? My father. See? And yes, it is a gift from the divine, right? Because Sarah was evil, and I had to be protected from that evil. The message I'm getting right now is look forward to new beginnings. And this announced a new beginning in employment as well as life enjoyment. I hope so. It's been a nightmare for me. It really has been. What else am I going to do? I got things I got to do today, and the sun's already coming up. Something about, I do know that the people who ended up dying were in regret. And I do believe that they have attached themselves to me in some of my objects. There might be some of my, in my toy collection in the other room that they may have attached themselves to. And yes, it does happen in the supernatural. You know what I mean? Some of these people I would consider themselves my enemy. Why? Because they worked, behind the scenes to do things that were not going to be a part of my plan or whatever, and they ended up dying, and now they are in serious regret, and now they want to make sure that I arrive safely and protected. Why? Because they are filled with remorse about what they did. They're filled with remorse. I do believe they did try to make some sort of attempt to bring my father back, okay? But my father will not answer the call. He will not answer the call. He does not want to come back here. Okay. So it's stupid to bring children into the world when you don't have the ability to provide for them in the first place. Okay. That's what I'm saying. It's like, I think that, I don't believe in having kids unless, of course, you know that you're going to be able to give them a good life. And if you can't, then don't do it. The message I'm getting right now is that people support my views. And like I said, it makes sense. Mary Gordon was not somebody who should have raised kids. She should not have had kids at all. It is what it is. She was... I would think Mary Gordon was the kind of person that could have been a grandmother like, she made a good grandmother, but not a good mother. You know what I mean? She was the kind of person that was fun because she would spoil kids with a bunch of stuff, like buy them stuff, toys and candy and stuff like that. But as far as like somebody who could pave a good way or foundation for a kid, I would say no. Okay, the message I'm getting right now is that people think that I can focus my mind and get whatever I want. Okay, I think that is an exaggeration. That is an exaggeration. Like I said, if that were true, then I would be working by now. Okay? But what I have dealt with is obstacles, people creating obstacles for me. Me finding out, it's important to find out who are the obstacles, name those obstacles, talk about, why these obstacles should not be there. In this case, Sarah should not have anything to do with me. I don't recognize Sarah. Sarah's not my family. And something about my items are enchanted. She could very well be one of my enchanted items right now. Okay. And then something about me being royalty. Okay. So Sarah was a big time obstacle of mine. Now that I understand that, okay, now that removes Sarah. Okay. So there really is no reason for me not to work. It's not about me hocus pocusing. It is about finding out who are your obstacles, finding out who the obstacles are, what the obstacles are, and then attacking them. Okay, so Sarah was an obstacle, right? Now, what is it now? Okay, so now I'm talking about me and my lifestyle. And my lifestyle is I do live, I don't really see anything odd about my life because I go to work and come home. Like I wash dishes, I clean laundry. I mean, I do stuff that normal people do. You know what I mean? But yes, I do smoke marijuana. And marijuana is just like any other. Something about me being royal. My royalty doesn't mean anything to me. Okay? I mean, the only thing it means to me is an explanation as to why I see things the way that I do. Why am I unique? I am extremely unique. Where does that come from? A combination of things that I inherited and then things that I acquired from being in oddball places, oddball situations that I've become used to. You know what I mean? So it is what it is, okay? But that's all royalty means to me, okay? It provides an explanation. It's not like, I'm not like Kate or William where I'm like, being carted around in like a buggy or I have tiaras or anything like that. So my life is just like a regular person. So I don't really see what the big deal is. And that's it. Something about, yes, the people that I predicted were dead are dead, and that my son feels, my son feels that he's glad that these people are dead as well. Okay, I do believe that they took on liberties that they were getting out of control. Okay, they were trying to literally take control over me. Bruce was talking shit about me in the beginning with Sarah, and then all of a sudden he decided that, oh, I'm not such a bad person. Then he thought that the whole thing is so arrogant. I don't even want to repeat it. That's how arrogant it is. Like he thinks he's going to treat me like crap, and then he can turn around and be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna, I want Maria now. I find him so beyond offensive. And the message I'm getting right now is that Houston is on my side, and he's glad that they're dead. So Bruce could be dead by now. I don't know. Maybe Bruce and Sarah. Bruce, Sarah, the Collins family, whatever. Okay. They were greedy, and they had no right to be. Because whatever. I'm just beyond pissed off. The message I'm getting right now is that something about me winning this issue, I know it's been going on for a long time. I know it was a covert issue because we had Terry in doing things behind the scenes with the Collins family. That would be Jennifer, Bruce, possibly Sarah, maybe even Rick Collins. And I know Rick and Terry have been divorced for very many years, okay? But on this issue, they seem to have been reunited, okay? And the message I'm getting right now is that all my items are enchanted. Who's to say? The entire Collins family could be dead, and they could be enchanting my items. And something about, they were obsessed with me because I was royal blood. And, like I said, that's nice. But royalty don't mean shit to me. It doesn't mean anything to me. Okay, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm glad. I think the story of Prince Alamehu is wonderful. But like I said, I don't live like Kate Middleton. Okay, I don't live in a castle. I don't live in any of those things. So to me, it's like to focus on that is like, you know, plus I knew people of royal ancestry, like British ancestry or Scottish ancestry going up in my entire life. So I don't really see it that big deal. And yes, these people grew up to have normal lives. They're just normal people. Okay, what else? Okay, something about, okay, so there's people of my past that remember. You see, I wasn't sure, but I do know a lot of people from my past are dead. Okay, people who got involved with this issue relating to the Collins. There's some people who ended up dead, and I'm shocked, and I deal with a lot of shock right now. Why? Because some of these people did not realize that, number one, don't bring religion into the workplace, and I remember warning them about this. But it's the fact that they did anyway, that they were gung-ho about it, and now it turned, and it's weird because I look at the people like the Collins, and I'm just shocked at how mentally ill they really were. Okay, now anyway, there are people who, in my past, who remember me that are alive today, that are talking about me, okay, and they believe that I'm safe. Now, like I said, I don't know if I'm safe. I don't know what goes on in the outside world. I just know what took place, and what took place that I was not comfortable with, okay? There were people who were doing things to me that I was not comfortable with. So there might be some people who used to know me who might be playing some sort of active role right now. And something about, I'm glad that my father's not coming back. There is nothing great about being cloned over and over and over again, and then being put in situations where you're dealing with people who want to challenge your religion. To me, how stupid for you to sit here and bring back a person, right? And then hold it against them, and then never tell them, the reason why you're doing it. This right there tells me that that was some sort of deliberate setup. Because why are you not going to let person defend themselves or even know what they have to deal with? See, this is why I'm saying this is where it got crooked. The message I'm getting right now is that there is sympathy in the religious institutions. They realize that this was wrong, and it is wrong. The message I'm also getting is that me and my son are safe, and we will not be cloned. Good. And that something about there is only fun things to experience in the future. I'm like, I can't even imagine what the future is going to look like. I have no idea what the future is going to look like. I have a hard time even dealing with the present moment, trying to get things done. I try my hardest to follow up on phone calls. I don't like making phone calls, but I have to. I'm doing what I can to find a job. It's not easy to trust people, after dealing with what the Collins did and their nightmare drama. I'm traumatized. There's not a day that goes by that I don't deal or struggle with trauma. Okay, I'm traumatized. Okay, I don't want anything to do with the Collins, and I want to make that very clear. I'm disgusted. Some people are talking about my royalty issues, and then the people that I used to know are trying to make sure that I feel safe. Well, I will feel safe if you make sure that this issue is spread throughout the Bakersfield community. I do not want fake job interviews. I'm trying to get in contact with employers, to return my phone calls. I've done what I can to express my concern about working for certain companies. That's all I can do. I don't know anybody. I think it would have been better had I moved out of Bakersfield, but I have not received any provisions from doing that. This is what I'm telling people about the consequences of playing with people's employment. Okay, and yes, do not mess around with things like this. Do not sit here creating rumor campaigns. Do not sit here and traffic another individual. Do not ever act like somebody has some sort of, rights over another person when it comes to hiring people. Okay, all of these things are very dangerous. Okay, and I would have expected more from qualified people. Other people who, if the people who are remember who I was, and if you really want to help me, please fix this issue in the community because I'm tired of dealing with it. Okay. I do not get everything I want or what I think of. I think that is an exaggeration. Okay. But I am able to explain situations for myself out of situations, and that's what I'm doing. Okay. What happened was I moved here to Bakersfield because the Antelope Valley jobs were not plentiful 20 something years ago. Okay. The only jobs that they had in the Antelope Valley were, number one, if you wanted to be in the aerospace industry, right? Boring. Or you were going to be a teacher of somehow. The Antelope Valley never really had much jobs. That's unfortunate. Okay. And you would think that it would because it's so close to Los Angeles, but it didn't. Okay. The message I'm getting is yes, my predictions of those who died is accurate. That is so creepy. Okay. That is very creepy. But it is what it is. And so I am trying to deal with the aftermath of what they did. They did some illegal stuff. They took things too far. They got overzealous in their religious garbage. They did some pretty abusive stuff. For the people that used to remember me, you remember me growing up in junior high school. I was always somebody who wanted to study into things like religion. I have decided that I do not want to be a part of mainstream religion. The Collins wanted to shove their religion down my throat. All of this stuff is becoming a nightmare. I did not want any of this to happen. I didn't deserve it. Please help me clean it up. I want to continue on my what's left of my life. Okay, I realize how many years these people have taken out of my life. Okay, I don't have very many years left, and I want the rest of my years to be good. Okay. I want the rest of my years to be as good as they possibly can, and I want to do as much spiritual writing as I possibly can to clear up information that people might want to know. Like, what goes on in the death process. Like, once you die, is it instant? Apparently it is. People instantly go here. You know what I mean? And, I want to talk about those things and resolve these issues and talk about, life in general in my writings before it's my time to go. I want my life to be productive in spiritual pursuits. Okay, is what I want. And I don't have, I'm already in my 50s. I don't know, I might live to be in my 60s, 70s, whatever. Okay. But one thing is, I want to make sure that as I go forward, I am no longer going to have to struggle based on some nonsense that the Collins created for me or that Sarah caused or whatever. These people need to be I need to move on and have these people out of my life for good. Okay, and the message I'm getting is that people look at me as a wholesome person, kind of nerdy, as a matter of fact. The message I'm getting is that Houston realizes Sarah was a wicked and evil person. And I do believe that my son is disappointed in her, because I do believe that my son respected her at one time, okay, but she deceived him. So, anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video. I'm going to go ahead and get some coffee started because I really would like to get some coffee. And when it comes to coffee, I just like my coffee plain. I don't like any flavored coffees. You know what I mean? I just like regular, plain, dark coffee. And I do like putting cream and stuff like that in it. But, I just like old-fashioned coffee. Now, I am not a coffee connoisseur. I know some people spend a lot of money on their coffee. You know what I mean? I'm the kind of person, I would say that I do not buy the same brand of coffee consistently. I will sit here and either I'll buy what's the cheapest brand, or I might try something different to switch it up. Like, for example, if I bought like the Casco Bustelo for like 3 times in a row, then I'm like, I want to try something different, or I'll try something else, And yeah, I have bought things like Starbucks coffee and stuff like that, but I'm not really, it's not that important. You know what I mean? What I do like is I like a strong taste. I like a very strong coffee taste. And that's all I can tell you. I am not a coffee expert, but I do enjoy a warm drink during this time of the year. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video. For the people who used to know me, if you can help out the best way you possibly can is to clear up and get the message out across. That would be the best thing, okay? And the most important thing is to never participate in gang stalking yourself, okay? That's one of my biggest issues in trying to resolve this issue of employment tampering. The more people stay out of employment tampering, the less targeted individuals will have, and people will be able to find jobs without having to worry about, the nightmare drama about, what do you call it? Needy people attaching themselves to me. Like the idea of the Collins attaching themselves to me was just so demoralizing. It was beyond depressing. I couldn't take it. Okay, the message I'm getting right now is that there's a lot of people who are excited about this interview that I'm going to have. I hope that people find this interview interesting, and I hope it turns out well. I will keep you posted. I'm going to wrap up this video. Take care. Bye-bye.